So Josh Cairns, founder of Minke, welcome to FranFeast, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Joel, for having me.
Excellent, mate. So we're going to talk AI intelligence for franchise brands today. And I think the number one thing on everyone's lips as they're listening to this or watching this right now is, what is AI intelligence for franchise brands?
Honestly, we look at the landscape of AI, particularly in the franchising sector over the last few years, is a really, really quick evolution. I remember standing up 3 years ago at NFC Gold Coast, I think it was. And that time, it was remarkable that franchising, that AI could write content for franchising, whether it was tidying up an email, so you stop offending your
we were thinking of like copywriting and stuff.
Exactly,
weren't we?
there was that's right, copywriting. We were really proud at the time. We had, for my former business, we'd come up with a product that could write policies with consideration of all the regulatory environments that you had to operate in, and we thought that was just groundbreaking at the time. A couple of years ago, it became agentic AI to start solving problems. For the last year, it's kind of been this deep diving into data. And so for us, we see the next evolution. I think where we're sort of pushing now is that instead of the user instructing the AI what to do, we're seeing it going full circle now that we want the AI to be instructing the user what to do. That's not a full commentary on my vision of AI more broadly across the universe, but in franchising, where you've got these local business operations happening, we love the idea of a AI tool instructing franchisees exactly what to do to run their businesses better.
Can I ask a question about that? Because that was my question I had in there. When you said that, I was thinking, fantastic. But just for people to know, what's it basing it on? So it's obviously linked into all these data points in the business. How's it actually calculating or coming up with the output that's the right thing for the owner to do? Like, do you want to explain that process a bit?
Yeah, so the way we've sort of built that out is that, first of all, we already know that franchisors know the benchmarks, they know the KPIs that drive success. So they know the drivers of success, not the success. We all love success and we know what that is, but the drivers that push towards that. Franchisors have already got a great understanding of that. So expanding on that with the analysis of the data that we've got access to, we start to come up with correlations, trends. It might be a local area marketing campaign. It might be rostering certain people on or off at certain times. There could be, depending on the nature of the business, there could be so many different levers to pull. And so it's just looking for what are the most successful sites in the network pulling, what are they doing, and how do we coach the underperformers to do more of that and less of this, and just figuring out exactly what matters.
Now, it's the next evolution. And when I saw that demo on the screen, it had a really good suggestion for the franchisee on how to do it. Is the next step after that, then you can actually just go do it, and an agent or something will actually do what you're telling the franchisee to do? Or is that the vision for you?
And I think you would have already seen, Joel, I know you're really across this stuff as well. There are so many tools out there, even if it's Claude Co-work, for example, that can do stuff for you already, and scheduling that to do. We see that at the moment, at a franchisee level, the market's not ready for that. These are dudes who roll up their sleeves and they get in each day and they do work. And I don't think a lot of those bricks and mortar businesses can be automated. You can't make a coffee. You can't. So we think there's still so much room for humans to be instructed to just operate at a human level, but using AI to kind of figure out exactly what is the best use of my time. I've got 8 hours to roll up my sleeves and get to work. What's the best possible use of those 8 hours to grow my business?
And the last one, sorry, Glenn, before I throw back to you, is and obviously with that in place, like, you're just going to get better and better at learning that business and how that operation goes with all the different data points, et cetera. It's going to get even way more effective with its suggestions as it goes on. So the more that has time in the business, I presume, the better it's just going to get. Yeah,
it's time, but it's also just a volume of data. So what the early testing that we've sort of conducted, we were focusing a little bit more on time, but we find that if there's more sites involved, so if we've got a network that's got couple of hundred sites, I guess mid-sized sort of franchise group, couple of hundred sites. If there's 10 sites on, the AI is smart enough to do its best and give some cool tips. If we've got 50, 60, 80, 100 sites on, just the sheer volume of data trains the tool so much faster. It gets so much wiser. And it's not really that much about, because I mean, a lot of the data can be backdated anyway. On day one, we can suck in previous data and we can learn from what's already happened. It's the volume of sites that tends to make the real difference. So there's that, I'm going to say this wrong, but whatever the aggregate is greater than the sum of its parts kind of thing. Yeah, that's the way we think of it with that. And
I was thinking, I mean, we're at the FCA's franchise forum today, and I watched that presentation that you gave to start with. And for those who don't understand, and I didn't have my head around what Minke was until I watched that, and I'm sure there might be a few people the same. So you're bringing in all this data from multiple sources, and you're using that effectively almost like as a franchise or a field coach for franchisees to prompt them on activities to do during the day to help them grow their business. Is that the summation of it?
Exactly. We've modeled it on the very best, almost like if you could go into a lab and build the greatest field coach, area manager, BDM, we call them different things, but if you could build that person in a lab, what would they be? They'd be attentive. They would be an absolute genius when it comes to analyzing data. They'd be engaged. They'd be available 24/7. They wouldn't be subject matter specialized. They know marketing and finance and operations and people and everything else. And so we've more or less tried to create that. That's what we're doing.
So you can see how this could fundamentally change franchise support system structures pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So what's your mapping? What's your mapping and your vision for that?
So we love the idea of the BDM, the area manager, that role being an absolute relationship guru. And honestly, most of them are anyway. It's what they do best. They'll go out on site, they'll have a coffee. They're such passionate people. They absolutely love the brand. They represent the franchisor with pride. They are custodians of the brand in some ways. The franchisees are, but they are sort of enforcers of that, of that role.
And I think franchisees want this sort of thing. So we've got a digital version of Jim, like it's using something called Delphi.
Yep.
It's all his knowledge in that. And I actually can see the conversations. So I can actually see franchisees going in there. I'm having arguments with my franchisor about this, but what do I do in this lead allocation area or something? Asking his digital twin, and it gives them a really good answer. They're saying thanks, Jim, to this thing, right? So there's absolutely a want for this from franchisees.
We think so. We believe so. We're fortunate. We assembled a really good board from across the franchising sector advisory board who have kind of guided product development from concept stage, honestly, before we even wrote a line of code. And so we do have a pretty. We are confident that there is a demand for it and that there's a real problem to be solved. Yeah.
And just one more for me, Glenn. Sorry, before I go. It's just what's not related to this, but the Fable 5 drama with Anthropic. Obviously, they had the Mythos model, and then they obviously pulled it. They relabeled it sort of Fable 5. I used it for 3 days. It was amazing what it did. And then had it pulled them. So what do I do now?
It was too good.
It was too good.
It was.
So what are your thoughts about just how the models are developing and sort of obviously everyone's just pouring money. It's like Google, obviously, Claude, and you've got Chat and OpenAI, obviously, and they're just pouring money into these models.
Yeah.
Where do you sort of see the next couple of years these models sort of going and just what they can do?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a consolidation. I think what's happened in the last year is that certainly at an enterprise level, but honestly, I think everyone's just gone towards Claude from what I'm hearing. Yeah. I remember I had an experience a couple of weeks ago, and I'll tell this story quickly. But we were, my partner and I were in Canada for a ski trip, and we'd never been to Canada before. And we're on the little 2-hour bus ride from Calgary out to Banff where we were going. And we thought, well, we're here to ski, but we'd love to see a bear or a moose or whatever it might be. So I remember we jumped in ChatGPT and said, what's the chances of seeing a moose? It was early springtime, so they're still in hibernation. And it said there's almost no chance of that happening because it's the wrong season for it. And as a bit of a joke, I wrote back to ChatGPT and said, that's not the answer I wanted. I'm really disappointed. So it said, well, I mean, there's a chance you might see a moose. And then we said, still not really well run. And by the time we got to it, we were just about going to be served dinner at the restaurant by a moose. It was crazy. It just tells you what you want to hear.
Yeah, that bias,
and Claude
it
doesn't seem to have that wiring into it. It tells you what you need to hear. It'll kind of push back on the user a little bit. And I know that's just a superficial version. It's the engine behind it that those of us that are invested in it care more about. But I think it's just like one of these companies seems to be able to retain customers, tell them what they want to hear, retain revenue. And the other one's kind of there to do what it professes to do, which is to give you intelligence.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 2023 and what we were all using AI for in that time, and what you were, I wouldn't say instructing, but what you were using it in a business case for. Yeah. Are you surprised at the pace? So someone's in it daily, seeing where it's going, no doubt trying to crystal ball it. Is it hard for you to crystal ball it?
No, I mean, I'm not surprised that it's come as quickly as it has because of the use of AI to build the AI. That's where I think it becomes this snowballing kind of phenomenon. So I think back at that time in 2023, early 23, really, when it was all sort of fresh, there were already... I mean, those that were forecasting the future were predicting exactly what's happening now. And I don't think it was crystal ball. It wasn't tinfoil hat kind of nonsense. It was almost inevitable, I think, that we are where we are now.
You think people maybe just weren't paying that much attention? Like the layman wasn't paying as much attention?
Yeah, correct. And I think I think there was a fatigue and exhaustion because every single week... I
think there still is.
There absolutely is. And honestly, I feel a little bit of guilt getting up there to talk about AI because I think everyone's just sick of it at this point,
honestly.
Another
AI guy.
I know, another AI guy. Honestly, you really do feel a little bit of putting a burden on people.
Everyone on their LinkedIn profile now has got an AI something developer.
Yeah,
AI
you almost have to. It's a rite of passage, I think. Yeah.
Not me, never.
We absolutely do see that it has happened so quickly that even if there are meaningful, material changes to your role or to your business or to your, how you could go about achieving your goals, you just miss it amongst all the noise. So you are paying attention to things, and I think everyone's aware of how quickly it's moving, but the details of the movement, it's like if you've got a motion blur, like you can't see what's moving. You know it's moving quick, but you can't lock anything because it's just moving too quickly to even dial into.
Yeah. So So you said you've had advisory board on this of franchisors, and you've built and sold a tech business before that supported the franchise sector. So you must have some insight at HQ level from a franchisor perspective about what sort of impact that might have on that team and that support structure, and what that looks like, say, even in 2 years' time with a product like yours. So what are you forecasting as an impact?
Honestly, I see it going back more towards people. I think the right use of people, I've always believed, is relationships, whether that be customer brand relationship or whether it be franchisee relationship. But I think that the AI, it can't automate much more. I know to Joel's earlier question, the automation, there's certain things that just can't be automated. And I think those that are going to really excel are the ones who excel in the human-to-human interaction side of it. That's why we don't see Minke as replacing area managers. We had a couple of people sort of pose that question. I couldn't think of anything less likely to happen than this. I think it's going to make area managers absolute rock stars. They're going to be armed.
It would probably make an area manager go from 10 stores to 20 stores, maybe.
I think
maybe
it might expand that footprint, but I just think the depth of the relationship and the human connection is going to be more. So instead of them being the messenger of do this, it'll kind of be like, hey, you're going with the Minke stuff, you've got that stuff
Changes
happening.
The conversation.
It does, and it becomes so much more about the relationship. And that's what, I don't know, that's what franchising is to me. It's people connecting with people, rolling up their sleeves to have a crack together and do good work together.
Yeah, totally. You got something else, Joel? You're looking at me.
No, well, I'm just thinking, so you sort of almost see me as like an implementation partner, right? So here's the suggested strategy based on all the data that Minke's provided. And like, I can know what I need to do, but I need someone to help me and sort of, I guess, hold my hand in a way to actually execute and implement this, right? So it gives them more time to actually help them do the things that's going to move the needle, right? Rather than get bogged down in all this other stuff before. Yeah, we see it as best use of time. Right. Time is the commodity that we can't get back. I know that's the oldest cliche in the world, but each and every day, franchisees have, between 6 and 12 hours a day, depending on work ethic and requirements and the model of their franchise site and whatever else. But how do we use that time most effectively to achieve our goals, which 9 times out of 10, I ordinarily would assume is grow the business. I mean, there's lifestyle operators and everything, but for the most part, it's growth related. How do we grow the business? How do we make more money at the end of the day? I just want to ask your opinion on something as well. You mentioned Claude before, but I find it crazy that Google's is not leading the way. Yeah. Because they've had years of owning pretty much the internet. Yeah. And how their products, like I do new franchisee training every 3 weeks, and we have around 100 new people there, right? And I go to them, I have ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini on there, and I go, who uses ChatGPT? Pretty much everyone. Yeah. Claude, you get a bit of a 20 base, and then you might get Gemini with like 10, which I find is outstanding. Plus, you get an integration with Workspace. So, why do you think Google's not the leader in this space?
Look, from my experience, I've used it a little bit. I think I've used it natively within the Google Workspace applications, and I haven't liked it, frankly. I haven't liked it. Even if I need to write an Excel formula or something, I will find myself in ChatGPT just because it's easier. I know I just finished praising Claude, but for something as simple as that, I'll use ChatGPT, even though I've got just a little Gemini button in the user experience Google Sheets. I don't know why I don't. The experience I've had with it, maybe there's a scar tissue, early days not that good, and you can't get that out of your head. But I find if I want to write a spread formula, I'll literally just jump into ChatGPT and then I'll paste it into Google Sheets. So that's not an excellent answer, but I definitely believe what you're saying is true for me. I feel the same way. I don't use Gemini despite the fact it's free and it's incredibly excellent. Yeah. I mean, Nano Banana's amazing for what it does, but as far as the actual chat experience, I don't love it. I don't know why.
And maybe just some advice for franchisors feeling overwhelmed, because I think obviously you've got franchisees now, whether they like it or not, are using AI in some way in their business. They're probably communicating with head office based on a ChatGPT email, which happens quite a bit. Yeah. So what would your advice for franchisors be around AI? Like, what should they do if they're feeling a bit behind? Yeah. What would you sort of say to them?
Look, I love the idea of specialist agents. I love it. This is what Minke does. We have a team of agents that have a skill layer, and that's how we sort of execute our stuff. But honestly, you don't need Minke for that, not at the moment anyway. Right. No, like you can create a specialist Claude agent for your marketing, give it tons of context, give everything you want. Specialist agent for operations, people, communications, HR, whatever it is. Create these and I would also say use Claude to create the prompt to create the next Claude agent. I know that's something people have done. It's not me coming up with it now, but I think, using a Claude agent to create a prompt to create another Claude agent, that's the secret sauce. Right. That way you get this massive contextually aware prompt. You drop it in there. You've got your HR expert or your operations expert, local area marketing expert, whatever it might be.
Now, when you say Claude agent, can you just explain for the average person what that means?
Yeah. So it's I actually do them as projects within Claude.
Yep.
But so I would say you go into a basic Claude chat, open up a new Claude chat. In layman's terms, just blab what you want. This is what I want you to do. I want you to create a prompt for me to create an agent that does this. Be my marketing expert, be my lawyer, whatever it is. Not lawyer, sorry to the lawyers. No, anything but that. Not legal advice.
It's happening.
Yes,
it's happening.
But create a prompt for me to do this. And then what you do is you take that prompt, get it to consult you as well. Say, consult me on this before you write the prompt. Give me clickable responses and ask me one question at a time. That way you get a consultative Claude interaction. Get your prompt, open up a new project, create it as your whatever you want to call your project, put it in there as context within the project description, and then you can do anything you want. It's excellent.
And the great thing about Claude is just the skills library. You can just go on GitHub and there's so many good skills. And there's a great one called LLM Council, and it basically has 5 different points of view, and it reviews your prompt or whatever the output is against the LLM Council, and you get it's amazing what it can do. And I think
it really is incredible. But that would be the quickest way that I would say that people could start using. And my experience with Claude to great effect and really contextually aware. Yeah, it's really good. Awesome.
So as we wrap up this chat, what's the roadmap for Minke? You're at pre-launch, correct?
We're at pre-launch.
Yep.
We've got working prototypes. It's working really, really well. We've got our pilot program kicking off early August, very early August. At the moment, we're just finalising. We've had a bunch of applications to be a part of that. We're finalising. What we ideally want is different industries, different sizes. So the most franchised industries, obviously food, retail, home services, fitness. These industries, we want big, small, medium from each of those sectors. That gives us a really good sample size. We do have a bit of a gut feel as to who we're more valuable for than others. And honestly, it's not so much about testing the product for robustness or security or any of that. We've got that all locked down. That's all good. And we know it works. It's legitimately value for us. We just don't want to be standing up at events like this pitching a product that's not valuable for anyone. We never did that before. We built a reputation of high integrity by only selling products that were valuable in the past, and we just want to do the same thing again. We want to know who's going to get the most use out of it, who's going to really benefit from it, and then we can just deliver it to them on a silver platter.
Nice.
That's what it's about.
Awesome, mate.
Thanks,
we'll look
gentlemen.
forward. No doubt we'll
Appreciate
chat again in the future. Josh Cairns
All right.
from Minke. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.